I chased after my childhood sweetheart for 3 years. Yet he remained just as cold toward me. That day, I gave Marco a sachet I had spent 3 months embroidering as a birthday gift. Not long after, it appeared in the hands of his poor deskmate. The moon pattern swayed and swayed, and before anyone noticed, it slipped into a muddy puddle. The poor girl looked at Marco with a pitiful expression and bent down as if to pick it up. "I'm sorry, I dirtied your thing. I'll pick it up for you." Marco grabbed her hand. "Forget it. It's not important. Focus on your homework. Your total score dropped by 3 points recently." I looked at my fingers, full of tiny needle pricks, and for the first time I thought to myself, forget it. I returned to my seat by the window next to the neighbor's desk and went to and from school as usual. After the college entrance exam, I went abroad. 5 years later, I came back to the country to register my marriage, and Marco came to pick me up. He handed me that sachet and looked at me gently. "Remember this? You gave it to me. All these years, I've been waiting for you to come back." Chapter 1. Marco held out the sachet, but I was on the phone. On the other end, my fiancé was whining and acting spoiled, saying he couldn't accept being apart for a whole month, with someone else present. I felt embarrassed to be overly affectionate, so I could only soothe him with a few words. After I hung up, Marco was still looking at me. I let out an awkward sound. "This thing is already old. It's actually not very useful anymore. You can just throw it away." Marco glanced at me. "I can't bear to. You gave it to me. Since the beginning of my memory." This was the first time he had spoken to me so gently, and it made me somewhat unaccustomed. I rubbed the seatbelt lightly. "Drive. I'm hungry." I hadn't been back for years, and I was craving the food from home. The car drove steadily along the road. A song played softly. Something about love. It sounded strangely familiar. Marco took a bag of wheat biscuits from beside him and placed it in my hand, one hand still holding the steering wheel. "You used to like this song a lot. I played it specially for you, and your favorite wheat biscuits. Eat a little first to fill your stomach." If I hadn't known him for more than 10 years, I would hardly have believed it. "Marco, did you get struck by lightning or something? Why has your personality suddenly changed?" Back then he had been the lofty young master of a prestigious family, someone who never put anyone in his eyes. Well, that wasn't entirely true. There was one person. Unfortunately, it wasn't me. All his patience and good temper had been reserved for that poor student named Lisa. The two of them had once been the couple the whole school shipped like crazy. I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Time really does pass quickly. In the end, everything can be let go. Marco tightened his grip on the steering wheel and looked at me nervously. "Emma, I didn't change. I just missed you very much." Chapter 2. If I had heard those words 5 years ago, I probably would have screamed with excitement and thrown myself into his arms. But now, my heart remained completely calm. I even let out a worldly chuckle to keep Marco from feeling too awkward. "What are you saying, young master? We've known each other for more than 10 years. There's no need to be so polite between us." It was a very standard perfunctory remark, but Marco misunderstood it. He didn't say anything more. The corners of his lips lifted slightly, and the way he looked at me became increasingly undisguised. "Well, forget it. Once he hears me discussing my wedding plans later, everything will become clear." The car drove for more than 40 minutes before arriving at my family's villa. My house and Marco's were right next to each other. His parents were away on a business trip, and when my mom saw Marco, she invited him to stay for dinner, since I would be staying for quite a while this time. I brought 3 large suitcases. Marco took the suitcase handle with one hand and casually reached out to carry my bag as well. I looked at him strangely. He shrugged and smiled. "Didn't you always want me to carry your bag for you?" That was something from a long time ago. On my birthday in the first year of high school, I had a terrible cold. Even though I was sick and weak, I still insisted on going to class with Marco. When we got off the car, my vision was spinning with stars. Marco had already walked ahead. Seeing that I had fallen behind, he stood there with his hands in his pockets, watching me. His gaze was distant and indifferent, the same cold expression he always wore. "Hurry up, we're going to be late." Back then I was so foolish. I thought he was worried about me missing class. Even though I was swaying on my feet, I still ran a couple of steps, covered in sweat, my lips pale as wax. I reached him, unable to help myself. I acted coquettishly. Marco, my bag is so heavy. I wanted you to carry it for me. He lifted his eyelids slightly and remained unmoved. 3 seconds later, the sharp chill in his eyes made my heart turn cold, and I regretted speaking out of line. When I secretly looked at him again, he had already left. Because of that one overfamiliar complaint of mine, Marco ignored me for half a month. Only after I chased after him and apologized with my head lowered did he finally agree to walk to and from school with me again. It had been so long that I had already forgotten about it. I didn't expect that he still remembered. I took my shoulder bag back into my hands and gave him a polite smile. I'm not that delicate. I can handle it. I pulled one suitcase away and pushed it forward. Marco's expression darkened slightly. Just as he was about to speak, someone suddenly appeared behind us. It was Lisa, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. Emma, you're back? Long time no see. Marco, why didn't you tell me you were going to pick Emma up today? If you had told me earlier, I would have gone with you. Emma traveled so far to come back. It must not have been easy. Chapter 3. Lisa had changed a lot. The timidity and inferiority she once had were gone, replaced by a confident composure. Her long, smooth hair fell to her waist, paired with a crisp blouse and a professional skirt. She looked extremely capable, as if she were the hostess of the house. She took one of the suitcases from Marco's hand and walked inside on her own. The way she looked at me carried an unmistakable excitement. Emma, have you gotten used to living abroad? Are you planning to find a job now that you're back? Her tone sounded like casual small talk. I responded calmly, following her lead. Not really. I just came back to take care of a few things. Then I walked into the house on my own. My parents had already been waiting for a long time. The moment they saw me, they pulled me into a big hug. My mom held my hand with teary eyes. You've lost weight. Sweetheart, haven't you been eating properly? I told you not to go study in that godforsaken place. But you wouldn't listen. Look how worn out you've become. It was Britain, after all. Yet my mom made it sound like I had been exiled somewhere. My family all knew how much I liked Marco back then. Their reproachful tone was really just concern for me. The problem was that the person involved was standing right behind me. And his girlfriend was here too. So I had to smooth things over. I reassured my parents. Oh, come on. I'm not that miserable. I lived pretty well over there. And I don't look like this because I suffered. I went surfing in Hawaii not long ago. What I said was true. But clearly none of them believed it. My mom held my hand and pursed her lips. All right. Let's not talk about those sad things. I made your favorite dishes. Go freshen up and come eat. By this time Marco and Lisa had finished putting down the luggage and were standing quietly in the living room. My dad had been warmly welcoming them. But when he saw Lisa, he froze for a moment. Hey, aren't you that? Lisa stepped forward on her own and smiled politely. Hello, Uncle. I'm Emma and Marco's old classmate. I used to visit Marco's house quite often before, so we might have met. My name is Lisa. My dad blinked awkwardly. Oh, all right. Hello. Since you're already here, why don't you stay and have dinner with us? As people often say, men and women really do think differently. My dad thought Lisa had simply happened to run into us, but my mom immediately saw through her little intentions. When I went back to my room to change clothes, my mom followed me with a dark expression. Is this Lisa the one who ruined things between you and Marco back then? And Marco too, why did he bring her here today? What's that supposed to mean? She was clearly standing up for me. I quickly reassured her. Mom, don't get angry. I really don't mind. Please don't cause a scene later. Besides, I already told you I have a boyfriend now. I came back this time to get engaged to his family. Marco and I are long in the past. Even though I said it clearly, my mom still didn't quite believe me. After all, she had witnessed firsthand how obsessed I used to be with Marco. That evening in the dining room, the table was filled with my favorite dishes: palm-sized abalone, a whole Australian lobster, bird's nest and shark fin soup, and stir-fried Chinese kale with shrimp and corn. It was obvious that my parents were worried I hadn't been eating well. They had practically prepared a New Year's feast. But just as we sat down, before anyone had even started eating, Lisa let out a sigh. Emma, you're still as extravagant as ever. She glanced at Marco with a pitiful look, her eyes carrying that familiar cautiousness. After all these years, I thought you'd changed this habit. But it seems nothing has changed at all. One meal like this costs tens of thousands. That's my entire monthly salary, and it could cover several years of tuition for many children in poor mountain villages. I'm not trying to blame you or anything, but could you maybe change this wasteful habit? Wouldn't an ordinary home-cooked meal be enough? Do you really have to act like a spoiled rich girl? Chapter 4. The accusation that blurted out so suddenly made my parents' faces darken immediately. What they didn't know was that back in high school, Lisa had said countless things like this. At that time, I felt both wronged and miserable. Yet Marco would stand beside me listening without saying a word. After she finished scolding me, whenever I tried to talk back or explain myself, Marco would speak coldly. Emma, if you say one less sentence, you won't die. Because of that, Lisa had grown used to criticizing me arrogantly. She thought I would endure it like I used to. Unfortunately for her, she was wrong. I was no longer the same person I had been before. I slowly put down my chopsticks and looked at her with a slight smile. There was no warmth in my eyes. Miss Lisa, are you dissatisfied with the food in my house? Lisa pressed her lips together. No, I'm pointing out your wasteful and extravagant habit. I'm saying it for your own good. Oh, if Miss Lisa thinks I'm so terrible, then you shouldn't eat the food in my house. It might choke you. I glanced sarcastically at the abalone she had just picked up into her bowl, and the full bowl of shark fin soup. Lisa's eyes instantly reddened. She turned to Marco beside her. Marco, look at her. Marco didn't say anything. I laughed even louder. It's useless for you to look at him. Miss Lisa, please leave. Take care on your way out. After being told to leave so directly, Lisa couldn't possibly stay. Tears dripped down her face as she walked away, turning back every few steps to look at Marco. When she saw that he still didn't react, she finally left resentfully. I felt extremely satisfied inside. I scooped myself a bowl of porridge and drank it in big mouthfuls. After a long while, Marco sighed softly. Now that you've vented your anger, you should feel better, right? Emma, you're still so childish. There was a hint of pride in his certain tone, as if he believed my behavior just now had been jealousy over him. He picked up some corn and placed it into my bowl. You don't like Lisa, so I let you get your revenge. If you want to vent your anger, I'll indulge you. What happened in the past was my fault. Emma, you can take your revenge as much as you like, as long as you're happy. It's just that Lisa's family conditions are not good. Before high school, she relied on poverty subsidies. Seeing your family spend so much on food, it's inevitable she feels uncomfortable. Her words may be unpleasant, but it's human nature. Don't argue with her. Those seemingly reasonable words made even my mother's expression change. But Marco didn't notice. He continued talking as if nothing had happened. All right, you eat first. I'm going back. What you did just now was a bit impolite. Lisa is still our old classmate after all. It's not good to make things too tense. I'll go explain it to her for you. After he hurriedly left, my mom followed him to the door and slammed it shut with a loud bang. The admiration she used to have for him in her eyes had completely disappeared. All that remained was the irritation of looking at an idiot. What the hell? When did this kid's brain become so broken? Is he sick or what? Chapter 5. Back in my bedroom, I kept thinking about what my mother said. When exactly did Marco's brain break? I couldn't figure it out either. Since childhood, because our houses were close, Marco and I always went to school and came home together. At first, I only treated him like a close older brother until the first year of high school. When a girl confessed to him, I watched it happen from not far away, and my heart inexplicably felt sour. That was when I suddenly realized that my feelings for Marco had changed. Back in high school, Marco was someone very hard not to like. Handsome, excellent grades, and an aloof aura that kept everyone at a distance. He was polite but not flattering. When you talked to him, he would tilt his head and listen. If you ran into trouble, he would quietly lend a hand. Day after day, we went to school and came home together. His care for me was especially considerate. It made me develop the strong illusion that we were destined childhood sweethearts. So I began pursuing him openly and secretly. I gave him handmade birthday gifts, went to his house to cook for him whenever I had time, and did homework with him. Marco neither accepted nor rejected it. He wasn't enthusiastic toward me, but he didn't dislike me either. I always thought his personality was just cold. and that one day I would warm his heart. Until the first semester of our senior year, when a poor transfer student arrived in our class. At first, I didn't think much of it. The girl named Lisa had a sallow face, was thin, and not particularly pretty. Her 2 braids made her look unremarkable. When the teacher assigned Marco to tutor Lisa, I didn't take it seriously, until that girl named Lisa began to intrude more and more into the time Marco and I shared. When I asked Marco about homework, she would timidly ask him questions, making him turn to help her. When I asked Marco to hang out, she would say carefully that she wasn't feeling well and ask him to accompany her to the hospital. Marco's car had always been clean and minimal, but as time passed, pink blankets and pink slippers began appearing inside. His playlist filled with songs girls liked. In the corner appeared a basket of pig-themed snacks. One morning when I got into the car and saw it, I froze for a moment and asked Marco what was going on. He replied casually, "Lisa has low blood sugar. I prepared those for her." As for the songs, she said she hadn't heard them before and thought they sounded nice. So I saved them. He still seemed indifferent toward people, but whenever it involved Lisa, his reaction was always more attentive than with anyone else. My heart felt sour and uncomfortable. That kind of instinctive favoritism was what I wanted. Yet it was all given to someone who came later. I couldn't even think of what I had that was worse than hers. I wanted to lose my temper. I wanted to argue loudly, but I was afraid of making Marco unhappy. After suppressing myself for months, a knot of anger built up in my chest. The more I thought about it, the worse I felt. That day, the car came to pick me up again. When I opened the door, I saw a hairpin in the corner. I recognized at a glance that it belonged to Lisa. A surge of anger shot through me. In a fit of spite, I slammed the door and jumped out of the car. "I'm not riding in your car anymore." Marco had been reading. He looked at me in confusion. "What's wrong?" "It's too dirty and messy, full of other people's things." As smart as Marco was, he immediately understood what I was upset about. But he only frowned slightly, his gaze turning dark. "You're really not getting in?" "That's right. Fine, do whatever you want." He closed the car door and drove away without looking back. Chapter 6. That morning, I was late for an entire period. By the time I reached the classroom, my eyes were red-rimmed. When I walked in, my classmates froze at the sight of how disheveled I looked, and instinctively looked toward Marco. But he kept his head down, tutoring Lisa on an essay, and didn't even acknowledge me. Lisa noticed me instead. She poked him in the waist. "Hey, Emma's here. Her eyes are really red, looks like she cried. Don't mind her. She throws tantrums all day long." Marco's indifferent voice reached my ears. Cold spread from my chest all the way to my fingertips. In that instant, I wanted to give up on this relationship. But when class ended, he stayed behind on purpose to wait for me and set a bottle of strawberry milk, my favorite, on my desk. His tone was unusually gentle. "Are you coming or not? I'll wait for you to pack up." And I was pathetic. I had never heard him speak so softly before. One hook and I was reeled right back in, even though I was still stifled inside. I didn't dare take advantage and push further. I silently packed my things and followed behind him. Marco was 1.89 meters tall, and he walked fast. But that day, to wait for me, he deliberately slowed down. I noticed that inadvertent tenderness, and the crack in my heart was quietly soothed. I thought, forget it. Don't I know what he's like? Not to mention his family was wealthy and powerful. There was no way they'd want someone like Lisa as a daughter-in-law. And with my family holding every advantage, timing, place, and people, I would always have a chance to move Marco the ice block. I was young back then. I didn't know that being moved isn't love, and what you force your way into isn't love either. I was determined to charge forward. Marco's birthday was coming up. I figured he didn't lack expensive things, so I bought a Sue embroidery sachet kit online. For 3 months, stitch by stitch, I embroidered 9 jasmine blossoms on it. I wanted to tell him that, like this sachet, I would stay by his side. I never expected that the very next day after giving it to him, I would see Lisa holding the cord and playing with the sachet casually. It had rained heavily on the track field, and there were several puddles on the ground. Lisa swung the sachet around and around, and in the end it fell into the mud. The dark indigo cloth was instantly stained with muck, and the white jasmine became an ugly mess. Lisa let out a small cry and looked apologetically at Marco, who was walking toward her. I'm sorry, I dirtied your thing. I'll pick it up for you. She bent as if to pick it up, but Marco grabbed her hand. Forget it. It's not important. Go back and do your homework first. I just checked your grades. Your total score dropped by 3 points recently. This can't go on. Because he used too much force. Lisa's shoe stepped on the sachet, smearing it with muddy water. Marco glanced at it, then took out a tissue from his pocket, crouched down, and wiped the top of her shoe for her. I stood not far away, watching Lisa's slightly flushed cheeks and her fluttering eyelids. Suddenly, she lifted her head. Our eyes met. She tilted her head and gave me a victorious smile. Chapter 7. The emotions of that moment are unforgettable for a lifetime. My whole body went numb uncontrollably. I wanted to shout in anger, wanted to collapse and cry, but it felt as if someone were squeezing my throat. No sound came out. All I could do was watch myself slowly suffocate. I didn't see Marco take Lisa upstairs shortly afterward. After thinking for a moment, he came back down and picked up the sachet. After school, I chose to walk home from campus. Along the way, watching the scenery and the passing people, my heart gradually calmed. Love was never something that could be forced. It was only my own obsession. From that day on, I forced myself to give up that relationship. Whenever I could avoid Marco, I did. I also stopped attending the dinners his family invited me to. Perhaps he noticed something was different, but he didn't react much. After senior year ended, I discussed studying abroad with my family. Before leaving, I sorted through the scattered things at home. All the memories related to Marco were packed into a cardboard box and thrown into recycling together with that unfulfilled crush. When we met again 5 years later, I truly felt nothing anymore. Even when Lisa stirred up trouble, I only felt speechless. But Marco didn't believe that I had a boyfriend. Early the next morning, he came knocking on my door again. My parents weren't home, so I let him in. Marco brought several gift boxes. Emma, these are for Uncle and Auntie. Consider them my apology for what happened yesterday. Even after so long, he still instinctively shielded Lisa from blame. That kind of devotion was truly touching. If I weren't just a prop in their little drama. I glanced at the gifts. They were quite expensive. I also thought I should visit his parents sometime. All right. Thank you for the gifts. I'm heading out now. I'll come by to see you later. I plan to go to the city center to buy presents. And Marco volunteered. I don't have much to do today. Wherever you're going, want me to drive you? He was being considerate to an almost ridiculous degree. I didn't refuse and let him drive me to the biggest mall, heading straight to the Chanel boutique. I had just shown Auntie a limited edition bag when Lisa appeared out of nowhere. She stood at the store entrance with red eyes, her voice cold. Marco, so the important business you mentioned today was coming here to buy her a bag? I've been with you for so many years. How can you treat me like this? As she spoke, tears fell, looking exactly like a girlfriend catching her boyfriend with another woman. Even the shop assistants' expressions changed when they looked at me. Marco frowned and walked over to pull Lisa aside. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just accompanying Emma to buy a gift. What kind of gift requires the company's president to come personally? Does she have no hands or feet? Why are you treating her so well? Someone in the crowd whispered. Wow, I thought those two were a couple just now. Turns out they're shameless cheaters. Being blamed out of nowhere like this put me in a terrible mood. Anger surged up uncontrollably as I stared darkly at Marco. Marco, aren't you going to explain this properly? Who gave that idiot the right to insult people in public? Marco was still holding Lisa. Hearing me, he glanced at me. Emma, why don't you head back first? I'll come find you later. His vague words only pushed the blame onto me again. I clenched my fists tightly and was just about to speak when someone gently wrapped an arm around my waist from behind. When I turned my head, a strikingly handsome face with a sharp, confident expression raised an eyebrow at me. Surprise shot straight to the top of my head. I forgot about everything else and threw myself into Oliver's arms. "Aw, honey, when did you come back?" I quickly kissed the corner of his lips several times. Oliver had never had much self-control when it came to me. Seeing me like this, he lifted my chin and kissed me. His warm tongue brushed against mine, stirring wave after wave of passion. My legs instantly went weak, and my heartbeat seemed to pound against my eardrums. He pulled me tightly into his arms by the waist. his hand sliding downward. When I felt the heat that had already awakened, my mind buzzed before I suddenly remembered we were still in the store. I hurriedly pulled a few centimeters away. People are watching. Let's go home first. Oliver let out a rough breath, kissed me again, and then held me as he looked at the others. I just heard someone accusing my girlfriend of being a mistress. May I ask who said that? Everyone turned to look directly at Lisa. Lisa's face turned pale and stiff, and she instinctively glanced at Marco. But Marco's expression looked even worse. Through clenched teeth he said, "Emma, who is this man?" His voice was filled with unmistakable jealousy. Chapter 8. Oliver let out a mocking laugh. "I'm Emma's fiancé. Who are you?" Marco didn't even look at him. Stubbornly, he asked me again, "Emma, tell me, who is he?" I was speechless. Didn't he just say it? He's my fiancé. My parents already told you that I came back this time to discuss my engagement. You just refused to believe it. It was like talking to a wall. The noisy scene quieted down temporarily after Oliver appeared. Oliver had rushed over after finishing work. His jet lag was a mess, and on the ride back he lay on my lap the whole time, sleeping. The atmosphere in the car was heavy. Lisa sat in the passenger seat in silence, while Marco kept pressing the horn irritably every few minutes, when he recklessly overtook another car again, making Oliver frown. I covered the ears of the person lying on my lap and looked at Marco displeased. "If you don't want to drive us back, just say it. We can take a taxi ourselves." Marco's gaze shot through the rearview mirror like frost. He sneered. "You really protect him. This guy was seriously sick. If I didn't protect my partner, who else would I protect? Him or his Lisa?" When we got home, I settled Oliver into my bedroom to sleep while I helped him shower. My phone was blown up with calls from Marco. My WeChat was also filled with his messages. "Emma, are you sleeping with him? You're not allowed to sleep with him. Do you hear me? I won't allow it. Emma, come downstairs. I have something to say. Let's meet. Come out. I'm at your door. If you don't come out, I'll rush up there. It won't look good if things get ugly." The messages had been sent an hour ago, yet he still hadn't come upstairs. In the end, he didn't dare completely tear his dignity apart. I got dressed and went downstairs. Outside the gate, Marco stood holding a box, his face extremely gloomy. When he saw me, his eyes fixed on my lips and the red marks on my neck. His voice was hoarse. "You too, did it?" "Me, Dry Tinder meeting raging fire. We'd been tangled up for over an hour." Marco closed his eyes in pain. "Why, didn't you like me?" I felt a little amused and a little curious. "How did you know I liked you?" "Did Lisa tell him?" He opened the box. Inside were the things I had thrown away back then, including a diary of my secret crush. "I read your diary. I'm sorry, Emma. I've always been slow to realize things. Actually, it's not that I didn't like you. I didn't mean to ignore your feelings. After you left, my heart felt empty. I kept unconsciously wandering to the downstairs of your house. That's when I realized that you were in my heart." His confident tone made me laugh in anger. I looked straight at him. "Marco, what do you think love is?" Marco froze. I stepped closer and closer. "You keep saying I'm in your heart, but all your exceptions and favoritism were given to Lisa, and you call that love? Don't you think it's ridiculous? You didn't know what I liked. You wouldn't allow me to act spoiled or throw a tantrum with you. Yet you bought Lisa blankets, snacks, remembered her favorite songs, and defended her every time she bullied me. Marco, it's been 5 years. Why can't you still see your own heart? Why do you insist on arguing with me? Or does dragging me into your little drama just make you feel especially excited?" Only when I cornered him against the wall, his face drained of color, did I finally feel satisfied. Chapter 9. After I scolded him that day, Marco never appeared again. I didn't bother with him. All my attention went to discussing wedding plans with Oliver. It was only when we started seriously talking about marriage that I realized something surprising. The seemingly carefree Oliver was actually the only son of a tech tycoon family, a genius who had won the gold medal at the World Programming Competition at 16. He had hidden it so well, or perhaps he had been so genuine with me that I never imagined I had stumbled upon such a treasure. We first met outside a Chinese restaurant that had just closed. I was starving, squatting on the ground with dizziness from hunger. Oliver arrived on his motorcycle and groaned when he saw the closing notice. He covered his face dramatically. "I'm starving. I can't cook." I groaned too. "I'm starving. I can cook, but I don't have ingredients." Before the words even finished, we looked at each other. A strange sense of understanding made me climb onto his motorcycle without hesitation. That night was the fullest I had eaten in a long time. I lay on the floor with my round stomach, staring blankly, scrolling through my phone. I saw Lisa post on social media that she and Marco were enrolling at the same university. At that time, I had already blocked Marco. I never answered his calls. When my mom asked what happened, I told her everything. She said she would handle Marco's family if they asked. I never expected that while Marco was desperately searching for me, he was also entering a top university hand in hand with Lisa. My heart felt painfully sour. I wanted to cry, and I felt wronged. Why was I the one left in such a miserable state while they looked like the perfect couple? Oliver came out after washing the dishes and clicked his tongue when he saw me like that. "You didn't just realize I kidnapped you, did you? If you cry now, I'm not responsible." His aloof attitude made my sadness vanish instantly. Oliver sat down and looked at me steadily. "Why are you crying?" "I don't want to talk about it." "All right then, want me to take you out for some fun?" I glanced out the window. Now, it was already 11 at night. Rain was falling, accompanied by rolling thunder. Oliver raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, dare to come with me?" I had always been timid, but somehow his challenge slipped past my guard. "Let's go." That night Oliver rode his motorcycle at 180 kilometers per hour. The thrill shot from my tailbone straight to the top of my head. I screamed uncontrollably, burying my face into his back as rain mixed with my tears. When we reached the mountain top, I dialed Marco's number. I wanted to say a proper goodbye. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. Someone answered. It was Lisa. Her voice was soft. "Hello? Is this Emma?" All my words stuck in my throat. What remained was only the freedom that comes when obsession disappears. "Yes, I'm looking for Marco. He's taking a shower. If you have something to say, you can tell me. I'll pass it on." There was a hint of provocation and possessiveness in her voice, but I didn't care. I smiled slightly. "Tell him that Emma once liked him, but starting today, I've let it go." Chapter 10. Falling in love with Oliver seemed to happen naturally. He had an outgoing personality. When he wanted something, he would fight for it and seize it. When he first confessed to me, I hesitated a little, worried that I hadn't fully walked out of my previous unrequited love, and that it would be unfair to Oliver. Oliver didn't care about that at all. He held me in his arms and planted a loud kiss on me. Arrogantly he said, "Emma, if being with me still leaves someone else's shadow in your heart, then it must mean I'm not doing well enough as your boyfriend. I'll reflect on myself and treat you even better." It turned out I had worried too much. Oliver and Marco were completely different people. Oliver was passionate, bold, his overwhelming love almost swallowed me whole. So after 3 years together, we decided to get engaged and register our marriage. What I hadn't expected was for Marco to suddenly reappear. After I chased him away that night, I thought I had made things clear enough. A few days later, it was Marco's mother's birthday banquet, and I brought Oliver along to deliver a gift. The moment we stepped into his house, I met Marco's dark gaze. In just a few days, he had lost a lot of weight and looked strangely worn out. Oliver, not understanding the situation, smiled and held my hand even tighter. I gently patted his arm to reassure him. Then I handed the gift to Marco's mother. "Auntie, happy birthday." She sighed as she accepted it, then glanced at the hands Oliver and I were holding. "Emma, thank you for the gift. And this is..." Oliver nodded politely. "Hello, Auntie, I'm Emma's fiancé." She glanced regretfully at her son. "You're the lucky one, being able to marry such a good girl like Emma." Oliver looked extremely pleased, making me pinch him secretly. After dinner, Oliver had something to attend to and left first. I was walking in the garden when Marco followed me again. He grabbed my arm. "Emma, I've already fired Lisa." Lisa had been working at his company as his secretary. He fired her just like that? I frowned at him. "Why did you fire her?" "I don't want you to misunderstand my relationship with her anymore." I was speechless. Marco stepped closer. "Emma, I know I was wrong in the past. I didn't know how to cherish you. I'll change. I won't have any contact with Lisa anymore. Can you give me another chance? Chapter 11. The faint madness in Marco's eyes forced me to step back again and again. I was afraid he might do something extreme. At that moment, Lisa suddenly rushed out from somewhere and charged at me, trying to hit me. Emma, you bitch! Before I could dodge, Marco shoved her to the ground. Lisa, are you crazy? I'm not crazy. It's this bitch who seduced you. That's why you abandoned me. Lisa cried bitterly. We've known each other for so many years. Why won't you choose me? Do you know my parents and relatives all thought we would get married? Now you suddenly break it off. Have you ever thought about what I'm supposed to do? Her eyes, red as if bleeding, glared at me. This is all your fault. If you hadn't come back, Marco wouldn't have abandoned me, and I wouldn't have been forced to resign from the company. Emma, you already have everything. Why are you pushing me to the edge? Can't you just let me go? My head was starting to ache. Miss, are you blind? You two are the ones who won't leave me alone. I already told you I have a boyfriend. One of you keeps confessing to me, and the other keeps chasing me to insult me. What? You can't manage your relationship without dragging me into it? I've been abroad for 5 years. If you two were really in love, your kid would already be buying soy sauce by now. What does any of this have to do with me? Lisa couldn't hear a word. She pulled out a knife and advanced toward me. I don't care. It's all because of you. Only if you die will Marco return to my side. Only then will I have a good life. So Emma, go die. Stop getting in my way. The blade flashed. At the instant it came down, Marco grabbed it tightly. Blood dripped down endlessly. I froze. Lisa froze as well. She completely collapsed. You studied design. Don't you care about your hands anymore? Marco's lips turned pale as he stared at her expressionlessly. I don't care anymore. Nothing is more important than Emma. Lisa broke down crying and collapsed on the ground, covering her face. I looked at the two lunatics speechlessly, regretting my own foolishness when I was younger. After calling an ambulance, I also called the police. Lisa was stunned. Are you crazy? You called the police? I shrugged. Getting rid of troublemakers is every citizen's responsibility. Life isn't a novel. I have no obligation to repay harm with kindness. If Lisa dared to attack someone with a knife today, tomorrow she might seek revenge. Someone like that is much safer behind bars. Chapter 12. Because of intentional assault, Lisa would face a prison sentence. I heard that she tried several times to contact Marco through intermediaries, but Marco ignored her completely. I didn't comment on it. I was busy preparing the engagement banquet with Oliver. It was only when Marco's mother came to find me and said Marco wanted to see me that I went to the hospital. As soon as I walked in, I saw his hand wrapped in thick bandages. He was lowering his head, lost in thought. Hearing the movement, his eyes lit up slightly. When he realized it was me, the corners of his lips lifted a little, but when his gaze fell on my ring finger, that faint spark dimmed again. Emma, you came? After all, we grew up together. I placed the fruit basket I brought on the table. I remember you like pineapple and apples, so I bought some. Thank you. He watched as I sat down and took out a knife to peel fruit. Suddenly he said, I remember in our second year of high school when I had appendicitis. You stayed with me like this too. When he said that, I remembered as well. Thinking about it carefully, that was the last peaceful time between Marco and me. He was sick, lying quietly in bed for once. I brought desserts and fruit from home and silently kept him company. Marco didn't like noise. He leaned against the pillow reading Ordinary World, while I held a fruit knife and peeled the apples he liked. And 4 was in his hand, so it was inconvenient for him to hold a toothpick. I stabbed a piece of apple and fed it to him. His warm lips brushed my fingertips, making my heart tremble. He blinked and smiled, saying, thank you. One glance that felt like forever. After that, whenever Marco's coldness became unbearable to me, I would remember that day. Warmth would always rise in my heart, convincing myself that he wasn't cold, just not good at expressing himself. And so I stumbled again and again until my heart finally died and I went abroad. After so many years, I could finally ask him calmly, Marco, back in senior year, why were you so good to Lisa? He looked at me, slightly confused. Was I good to Lisa? Yes, back then. Traces of her were everywhere in your life. You cared about her grades, worried about her health, filled your car with things related to her. You even let her throw the birthday gift I gave you into the mud. So even if I didn't want to believe it, I had to admit, you spoiled her completely. After so many years, speaking of those grievances again only left a calm indifference. That unfinished love was never my destiny. Marco was silent for a long time before speaking. So that's how it was. I never understood why you suddenly went abroad back then. So that was the reason. What if I told you that the reason I treated her well was because the teacher privately asked me to look after her? She was a poor student and easily bullied in class. Her family situation wasn't good. So the teacher asked me to take care of her more. That's why I did those things. Do I still have a chance to start over? I laughed softly. Marco, you're an adult. Don't you think what you just said sounds ridiculous? If you had at least admitted your own feelings, I might have respected you more. Now I only think you're cowardly and crude. If he didn't like her, why had he given her so many special treatments? In the end, he simply refused to admit that he had fallen for a woman whose family background was inferior to his. A proud heir like Marco, how could he accept that he had fallen for someone like Lisa, who had nothing but schemes? Unable to face that truth, he tried again and again to use me to bring things back to what he believed was the right path. Perhaps after all these years, whatever feelings he once had already faded. But no matter what, a man should dare to face what he has done. That is what true courage looks like. I finished peeling the apple and placed it on the plate. After wiping my hands with a tissue, I saw Oliver walking out of the elevator. From a distance, I couldn't help smiling. I waved casually to Marco. All right, I'm going to go be lovey-dovey with my man. You figure things out yourself. Remember, Marco, if you fall in love with someone again in the future, don't use me as your excuse. I ran a few steps into Oliver's arms, and he grabbed my chin and kissed me loudly. Wife, I missed you. Me too. I'm hungry. Let's go eat those beef pancakes you like. Okay.